So last year, if you were paying any attention at all to the market, it really felt like one topic just completely took over, didn't it? Artificial intelligence.
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't escape it.
Right. Investors just piled into AI stocks, sent the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, even the Dow Jones soaring. But what if there's another field out there, just as high potential maybe, kind of following in AI's footsteps, maybe poised to lead the next wave of gains?
Okay, I think I know where you're going with this.
We're talking quantum computing.
Right. And, before we jump into quantum, it's really useful to think about why AI got so massive.
Good point.
Its core appeal, I think, is its potential to just completely revolutionize processes. Complex business stuff, but also just our daily lives.
How so? Mainly efficiency.
Yeah, largely by introducing these incredible levels of efficiency. Think about how AI helps speed up developing new drugs, for example, or autonomous vehicles.
Right, developing new products faster, better.
Exactly. Companies can innovate much more quickly. It's genuinely seen as a game changer. People compare it to, like, the steam engine or maybe more recently the internet.
That's a huge comparison, and we saw that reflected in the companies, right? Like Nvidia, the chip leader.
Nvidia was huge.
Broadcom for networking, infrastructure providers like Amazon, even companies applying it directly like Meta with its Llama model. Massive interest.
Yep, they all benefited.
So, okay, AI is obviously still a huge growth story. It's ongoing. But quantum computing, that feels even earlier in its development cycle, right?
Much earlier, yes.
Yeah.
But it holds that same kind of promise,
Yeah.
The potential to be a game changer.
So what's the fundamental difference? How does it actually work compared to, say, my laptop?
Well, it gets down to the physics, basically. Quantum computing relies on principles of quantum mechanics. How subatomic particles behave and interact.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit.
Right. So the key technical difference, the really powerful part is this. Regular computers use bits, zeros or ones. Simple.
Standard stuff.
Quantum computers use qubits. And here's the fascinating bit. Qubits can be a 0, a 1, or crucially, they can be both at the same time. It's a state called superposition.
Both, simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Hooray.
And it doesn't stop there. When you have multiple qubits, they can become entangled. Their fates are linked, essentially, no matter how far apart they are.
Okay, that sounds mind-bending.
It is. And combining lots of these qubits, leveraging that superposition and entanglement, lets quantum computers tackle problems that are just, well, they've been impossible for even the most powerful classical supercomputers.
Okay. So that's the aha moment, solving the unsolvable.
That's the unique power, exactly. Problems in material science, drug discovery, complex optimization, things classical computers just hit a wall on.
Right. That really lays out the potential scale here. So if this technology can do all that, what's our mission for this deep dive? Where are we going today?
Good question.
We really need to explore where quantum computing is right now, what's the current state, then look at some of those potential real-world applications you mentioned. We also have to be realistic, right? Acknowledge the challenges it faces. Because it's not easy.
Definitely not. There are significant hurdles.
And then ultimately, kind of bring it back to what this means for you listening to this as this technology maybe starts to really shape things. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, let's do it.
So we've sketched out this incredible potential, this promise of quantum computing as a future game changer, maybe like AI has been recently.
Yeah, the comparison is there. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what's actually happening on the ground, we are seeing real progress, especially from what we call the pure play companies.
Meaning companies focused almost entirely on quantum.
Exactly. Businesses like D-Wave, Quantum, Rigetti Computing, IonQ, they're making tangible strides.
Okay, like what kind of strides?
Well, take D-Wave. They just had a record quarter. Revenue shot up 500% to about $15 million.
Wow, 500%.
Yeah, driven by sales of their Advantage system and services. And they just launched their new Advantage 2 quantum computer.
And what's that being used for? Is it still theoretical?
No, it's starting to be applied. Fields like business optimization, even helping with certain AI problems. So it's starting to see practical use.
That's significant. Real revenue, real applications.
It is. But, and this is crucial, these quantum computers, they haven't even come close to reaching their full potential yet. There's still so much room for growth, for improvement.
So the runway is potentially massive.
Huge. Which, leads to the next point.
The challenges.
This does raise an important question, yes. Yeah. The challenges. Because the difference between where AI is now and where quantum computing is Well, it's pretty stark.
How so?
AI, it's being applied much more regularly now. It's, relatively speaking, easier to integrate into real-world problems.
Yeah.
Quantum computing, it faces these really fundamental hurdles.
Like what, specifically?
Well, for one, qubits themselves are incredibly fragile. They can only hold on to that special quantum information for a tiny fraction of a second before any external noise like heat or vibration makes them decohere.
Meaning they lose their quantum abilities. Back to just being like normal bits.
Essentially, yes. They lose the superposition, the entanglement. And on top of that fragility, you have issues with high error rates in the calculations.
Yeah.
And just the sheer difficulty of scaling these systems up.
Scaling up meaning more qubits.
Yeah, going from tens or hundreds of qubits to the thousands or millions you'd need for the really complex problems while keeping them stable and error-free. That's a massive engineering and physics challenge.
Okay, so fragility, errors, scaling, those like pretty major roadblocks.
They absolutely are. And that's why right now, quantum computing stocks are definitely seen as, let's say, higher risk than most AI stocks, even with that enormous long-term promise.
That makes sense. You've got this incredible potential, but also these really significant technical mountains to climb. So, okay, bringing it back to the listener, what does this mean for your perspective, maybe if you're thinking about this from an investment angle?
Right. Well, it depends on your appetite for risk, really.
If you're an aggressive investor, looking for that potential next big thing.
Then, yeah, maybe you look at those pure play companies we mentioned, D-Wave, Rigetti, IonQ. That's where the focused quantum bet is.
But that comes with the higher risk we just talked about.
Exactly. For a more cautious approach, you could look at the big established tech giants like Alphabet, Google's parent company, or Microsoft.
Because they have quantum programs, too.
They do. Significant research programs. So you get some exposure to quantum's potential upside, but it's cushioned within these huge, diverse businesses. Less direct risk.
Okay, so different ways to potentially engage with the technology, depending on your strategy.
Precisely. And look, it's definitely still too early to say with certainty how successful quantum computing will ultimately be, or the exact timeline.
No crystal balls here.
No crystal balls.
Yeah.
But what we can say is that companies are making real, measurable progress. That potential to solve these currently impossible problems, it's undeniably strong.
So the possibility is there.
The possibility is absolutely there, which means, quantum computing stocks could become the AI stocks of 2025. They could potentially help lead the market higher as the technology keeps maturing and hitting new milestones.
A very intriguing prospect. So wrapping this up, thinking beyond just the stocks, what does this all mean for your understanding, for how you see the future unfolding? What foundational technologies are really going to shape our world? And maybe what new applications or surprising breakthroughs might you anticipate as these quantum systems hopefully evolve from these, fragile lab experiments into really powerful, practical tools? Something to think about.